All right, let's dive into a vision for the future that, honestly, might be a lot closer than any of us think. We're going to unpack some of the arguments from ARK Invest's latest Big Ideas report and, well, they're arguing we're standing on the edge of some truly historic, disruptive economic change. So let's see what this is all about.
You know, the whole thing really comes down to this one massive question. Are we really on the verge of a new industrial revolution? And we're not talking about a small step forward here. We're talking about a complete top-to-bottom overhaul of our economy, all driven by a handful of incredibly powerful new technologies that are all starting to work together.
And their answer? It's a huge yes. They're actually predicting that real GDP growth could blast past 7% by 2030. Now, to put that into perspective, for the last 125 years or so, that number has been kind of stuck around 3%. So jumping to 7%, that isn't just growth, that's an economic explosion. And that's exactly what they're calling it, the Great Acceleration.
So, okay, how in the world do we get there? Well, we're going to break it down. We'll start with a big picture idea, the Great Acceleration. Then we'll dive into the AI revolution, a whole new digital economy, see how it's going to redefine the physical world, and then wrap it all up with what it means for us, like right now.
Okay, first up, the Great Acceleration. This is the big macroeconomic argument for why this tech boom is supposed to be completely different from anything we've ever seen. Yeah, even the dot-com bubble.
So the core idea here is that we are entering what they call a new capital spending supercycle. Now, if you remember the 90s tech bubble, companies spent billions laying down all this fiber optic cable that just sat there, unused for years. They called it dark fiber. But today, the big investment is in AI chips, GPUs. And the crazy thing is, far from sitting idle, there's a massive shortage of them. Why? Because they're being put to work the second they're made. And this timeline, this really puts the sheer scale of it all into perspective. I mean, look at this. The railroad boom back in the 1800s, it peaked at around 5 or 6% of GDP. Automobiles, even the dot-com bubble, they were less, maybe 4%. But the projection for this new era of AI and all this converging tech, get this, a staggering 12% of GDP. That is a level of investment we have literally never seen before.
All right, so that brings us to the main engine driving this whole supercycle, the AI revolution. And we have to be clear, this isn't just another piece of software. It's being framed as the single biggest driver of a massive leap forward in, well, productivity.
And what's fascinating is that AI is causing this huge disruption inside the tech world itself. You've got your traditional software companies on one side, and honestly, they're at risk. The value, the money, it's all shifting over to these new AI-native platforms that are just, well, they're faster, they're cheaper, and they're way smarter. The key takeaway here is pretty simple. You really want to be on the right side of this shift. And just look at the potential growth here. For the last 10 years, the software market grew at a pretty healthy 14% a year. Not bad, right? Well, the bull case projection for the next few years is 54% annual growth. I mean, that's just a gigantic leap, and it's being driven almost entirely by AI.
But, what does all this productivity gain stuff actually feel like in the real world? Well, here's a perfect, tangible example. Think about a company paying, say, $20 a month for an AI assistant for one of their employees. The boost in that person's productivity is so big, so immediate, that the company pays off that subscription cost in about half a day's work. The return on investment is basically instantaneous.
Okay, so this whole acceleration thing, it's not just about software. It's about finance too. Let's shift gears and look at how blockchain technology is helping to build out an entirely new digital economy.
So in this new economy, Bitcoin's role is becoming a lot clearer, and it's maybe not what some people thought. It's not really about buying your coffee with it. The idea is that it's becoming digital gold, a place to store value, a hedge against inflation. And the reason is super simple. Unlike any government currency, its supply is mathematically locked in. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin. That's it. Full stop. And that scarcity is absolutely key.
But okay, beyond just Bitcoin, the even bigger story might be this thing called tokenization. It's basically the idea of creating digital versions of real-world assets and putting them on a blockchain. And the projected scale of this market, it's just mind-boggling, $11 trillion. So what in the world does that actually mean?
Well, what can be tokenized? Pretty much anything you can think of. We're talking stocks, government debt, bank deposits, real estate, you name it. The potential here is to completely rewire the plumbing of the entire global financial system, making everything faster, cheaper, and way more accessible.
Okay, so we've talked digital, we've talked finance. Now let's see how this whole revolution is going to reshape the physical world we live in, especially when it comes to automation in transportation and logistics.
Now, this is a fascinating, kind of counterintuitive idea, so stick with me here. To cover just 1% of all urban miles in the US with autonomous ride-sharing, you'd need about 140,000 cars. Okay, but here's the twist. To cover 100% of those miles, you would only need 24 million autonomous vehicles. That is less than 10% of the cars on the road today. So you end up with a much smaller, way more efficient fleet that actually creates a much more valuable market.
And just how valuable is that market? The projection for the entire global autonomous vehicle ecosystem, and that means not just the cars, but all the software, all the platforms, the whole shebang, is a $34 trillion market cap by 2030. To give you some context, that's bigger than the entire US economy is today.
And this automation wave doesn't stop with passenger cars. It rolls right into logistics. Autonomous trucks could slash delivery costs by 60%. But get this, delivery drones? They could cut costs by an incredible 90%. So what does that mean for you? Well, that $15 fee for your food delivery could one day cost less than a single dollar.
So we've talked about all these different pieces. And here's the most important point of all. None of these technologies are happening in a vacuum. The real power, the real magic, comes from how they all connect and interact. And there's a word for that: convergence.
Think of it like this. AI, blockchain, robotics, energy storage, they're all part of one single unstoppable flywheel. Each part pushes the others forward. So AI makes the robots smarter. Blockchain secures the data that the autonomous cars need to operate. Each innovation makes the others better and faster, creating this cycle of progress that's just accelerating at a speed we've never really seen before.
Now, it's easy to look at this level of change and worry about things like job losses. But this perspective, it reframes the whole conversation. The idea is that this isn't just a technological revolution, it's a human one. It could be one of the greatest opportunities for entrepreneurs, for creators, for anyone who wants to build something new in the history of the world.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. This isn't just something to sit back and watch from the sidelines. These incredibly powerful converging technologies are becoming more and more accessible every single day. So the real question this whole idea leaves us with is, what will you build with them?